Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining and welcome back to Wall Street Silver. Our guest today is Chris Galizio, the executive producer of Money Game. Chris is an experienced institutional portfolio manager with a long track record of success. Welcome back to Wall Street Silver.
Good to be here, Ivan. It's always
Yeah,
nice to talk to you.
yeah, it's always nice having you on. This is your second time on Wall Street Silver, and I wanted to get you on to talk about everything that's happening in the economy, gold and silver. First, though, let's start off with our favorite topics, gold and silver. It's been making some really interesting headlines this year in 2024. Central banks are buying it at record pace. What do you see happening for gold and silver from now to the end of 2024, Chris?
I think it's very difficult to put a price on it because you have to understand there's two sides of it. There's dollars and silver, right? So my belief is you're sitting in a sovereign debt crisis. We just hit $35 trillion in debt. We have a $2 trillion deficit. You see, now you're seeing us enter more wars. We all know more wars are inflationary, right? So I think they're going to have to, like we say in Money Game, second biggest quote I think in the entire movie: print the money or trigger the revolution. So I think what you're going to see is the Fed's going to start printing money again, and you're going to see the value of the currency falling. So my belief is that you're sitting in a sovereign debt crisis.
Absolutely. And Chris, you're the executive producer of Money Game. Can you talk a little bit about Money Game? Why did you make it? I know we talked about it when you first came on, but just to go in depth, why did you want to timestamp this into the current society?
Because we're seeing everything flipped on its head. Notice the companies that are going up the most are the ones that lose the most money, right? Tonight you're gonna see our Boeing report. Boeing is trading at $110 billion and hasn't been able to cover their interest in 5 years,
That's
right?
insane.
It's insane. But if you step back and you say, okay, what's the value of Boeing? We all know the answer. It's zero.
No.
Any company that can't cover its interest expense is zero. So what you're seeing is by the Fed manipulating markets, they're flipping everything on its head.
Right.
And so things operating in reverse. You can take the reverse of that of a company like Stellantis. Stellantis is trading at 52 billion. It has 40 billion in cash, and they're generating operating profit of 18 billion a year. So it
Right.
trades at less than one times operating profit. So the biggest point I would make, one of the big points we make from Money Game, is the ecosystem change. So when you remove risk, which is the money game, when you remove interest rates, um, it, all assets, when interest rates go negative, we all know that as interest rates fall, asset prices rise. When interest rates go negative, all assets are worth infinite. There was a quote, our closing quote in Money Game is from Jack Bogle, the founder of Passive. And he says, if passive ever gets bigger than active, there'll be chaos and catastrophe. Our markets will fail. That's
Right.
what you're watching. You're watching markets fail, not in the sense they go up and down, but in the sense that the entire system starts to misallocate resources, which then slows the real economy.
Absolutely. Do you believe that the will have similarities to 2008 when the financial crisis came, or will this just be a bigger debt crisis, a bigger sovereign debt crisis, a bigger
Monetary Metals is offering 12% on silver, paid in silver in a historic offering, the first silver bond in over 150 years.
There's about $15 trillion worth of precious metals in the world, all sitting there. It's just absolutely insane. Monetary Metals is bringing gold back into the financial world, putting gold to productive use right now. The problem with gold, of course, in physical form is that it's heavy, it's not easy to ship, and it costs money to store in a protected manner. This platform allows gold to be put to productive use, so instead of sitting there costing you money, it's actually in use earning you money.
Learn how you can earn 2 to 5% in our leasing program and how accredited investors can earn up to 12% on silver, paid in silver. This advertisement is not investment or financial advice. Minimum investment applies.
banking crisis than we could ever imagine in 2008 or even going back to 2001.
So the crisis is keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger until you get to the point where you're in a sovereign debt crisis.
Yeah.
So in 1998, we had the tech crisis, only one sector. 2008, we had the financial crisis, which was much bigger, which they had to print money like crazy to get out of it. But now you're at the very end of it. You're at the sovereign debt crisis level. And so one of the quotes we wanted from the movie is one of the taglines is "the buck stops here." But during a sovereign debt crisis, as you saw in Venezuela, Argentina recently, and Egypt, during a sovereign debt crisis, it's the currency that falls. But when the currency falls, stocks go up. So that's
Right.
what you're sitting in right now. Everyone's sitting there questioning, why are stocks going up so much? Why? Because the Fed's stepping in and manipulating markets. So
Yeah.
so it's kind of like seeing if you looked out your window and you saw a bunch of gazelle passive investors, and you saw a bunch of gazelle, you'd say, "Oh my God, the ecosystem is flourishing. Look at these stocks going up like crazy."
Right.
But it's actually a sign that the ecosystem is broken. There's no lions left.
Ah, there's more because it has to be balanced. There has to be the
Correct.
ecosystem.
And so what you're seeing, everyone's seeing every day, they say, "Hey, look, the economy is really strong. Look, the stock market's up 26% year to date." Nope, that's a sign that the ecosystem is broken.
Right, because it could just be inflation, hyperinflation. The dollar's not
Correct.
worth anything.
And look what happened during the currency crash in Venezuela. Stocks went up. The stock market went straight up.
Yeah.
During Egypt recently, the stock market went straight up. During Argentina, the currency went
Really,
straight up.
all of them, the stock market went up when their currency was dying.
Because the currency's falling.
Right, right.
Right? So it's opposite of what people are thinking. They're waiting for the stock. One of the quotes I use is from Phil Knight, the founder of Nike, and he says everyone was waiting for the next Michael Jordan on the basketball court, but he was walking up the fairway because he was
Mm,
Tiger Woods. So everyone's waiting
yeah,
for the
yeah,
stock market to fall, but what's actually happening, and you're watching it every day, the currency's falling. That's why stocks are going up. During a currency collapse, stocks go up. All the money floats to the rich at the expense of the poor. Professor Gardner
right.
will say, Do you see why the rich have all the money? Their stocks are trading infinite. So
Yeah,
that's why
because it
I'm
just keeps
seeing
going
companies.
up.
That's why GameStop. We all know the value of GameStop. Nobody goes to GameStop, right? Nobody buys their games there. Kids buy their games online. We all know the value of it. It's zero. Why is it going up? Because the Fed's manipulating markets. The
Right.
irony is that during all this inflation, you can buy oil stocks at 5, 2, 3, 4 times earnings. It's shocking. I mean, Petrobras has it's trading at 4 times earnings and has a 25% dividend yield. And everyone's saying, well, markets are efficient. Well, nobody's beating the markets, not because markets are efficient, but because markets are inefficient. Because markets
Absolutely.
no longer, it's not, everything's being flipped on its head. The reason you're going to see tonight, you'll see Carvana report. Carvana will report a loss because they lose money every quarter. Revenue growth will be less than 5%, is my guess. It trades at 40 billion, and they're operating, and it's another one of those companies that cannot cover its interest expense. So why is it going up? It's my belief it's going up because they're issuing shares. So in a passive world, if you issue shares, there's you're the passives have to buy it because now it's bigger in the index.
Right.
When it's bigger in the index, then the stock goes up, and then the quants follow. So notice that 85% of the market is now passive and quant.
So it's all just
And
algorithm trading.
correct. And the reverse is happening on a company like Petrobras. They pay a massive dividend. The stock goes from 14. They pay a $3 dividend. Stock falls to 11, becomes
Yeah.
smaller in the index. Then the quants sell it. So that's why you're seeing the bifurcation of markets, not because markets are efficient, because markets are broken.
It's
And
just an
so,
illusion. It's all been a big illusion.
correct. And that's why I would argue to you that the price of silver is about to go to infinite in dollar terms.
Right, because in dollar terms, it's not worth anything, the US dollar. So,
Correct.
right.
You're all seeing it, but nobody's understanding what's happening, right? The opening quote in Money Game: the task is not to see what no one else sees, but to think what no one else has thought about that which everybody sees. Because we're all seeing that nothing makes sense, but everyone's trying to make sense of it from an efficient market perspective. Why did active managers underperform? Because they were using math, economics, and finance.
Right.
And if you just step back and say, well, what am I paying? Why would I pay $40 billion for Carvana, a company that loses money? Because the ecosystem changed. It's not people investing anymore. So I'm always people are like, well, who's buying it then?
The
It's
algorithm trading. Yeah.
correct. It's quant now. So you look at it. If I asked 1,000 people, if I showed you the financials of Carvana, and I asked 1,000 people, 999 of them would say, I would never buy that.
Yeah, because of the debt, they can't pay their interest
Correct.
they're servicing. They're losing. They probably don't have enough profits and
Correct. And then they turn and then say, who's buying it then? And
algorithm.
they say everyone.
Oh
Because
yeah,
the
the
entire,
investors. Yeah, yeah, because the stock's
well, the
going up.
entire market's passive and quant. It's not
Right.
people anymore.
Just
But people
85% quant.
correct. It's 85. It's probably 63 to 65% passive and 25% quant now. There's
Oh,
no
okay.
active managers. The line Professor Gardner in the movie will say no one picks their own stocks anymore. The lions have been eaten. It's a bunch of followers following followers, like a cat chasing its tail. But people believe someone else is buying these stocks. It must be worth 40 billion because someone else is picking it. They don't realize that they're the bag holders. This is not an investing system anymore. It's a financing system. You're not investing in the company. You're providing the financing. The tagline we use for our money game is "Don't get played," because you're getting played to finance U.S. companies. Notice that U.S.
Wow.
companies are now 72% of global markets.
That's insane.
Isn't that insane? So when you look at it, once you see it, it's impossible to unsee it. So so one of the quotes I use is once you understand that markets are broken, you're holding a crystal ball. I can buy Stellantis at 1x earnings. I can buy Petrobras with a 25% yield at 4x earnings. I can buy Ecopetrol in Colombia at 28% dividend yield, trading at 4x earnings. Right? Once you see it, it's impossible to unsee it, and it's
Right.
obvious we should do buy real assets.
Yeah, buy real assets. So talk a little about the money game. When is it coming out officially? Yeah, talk a little bit about it. We're excited to talk about that.
So it's a slow release because we don't have a huge budget. We released at the Greenfield Garden Cinema. We needed we were the second best performing movie at Greenfield Garden Cinema
Wow.
behind Inside Out. Inside Out's one of those billion-dollar movies
Yeah.
from Disney. We're not going to beat them, but we beat out Bad Boys. We beat out Furioso. We beat out some big things. We just don't have the budget to release it big. So
Right.
now
Right.
we've signed a 10-year distribution agreement with Buffalo 8, which will probably get us on streaming in 6 to 9 months. Our timing couldn't be better because as Vladimir Lenin said, there are decades where nothing happens, and
And
then
then all of a sudden,
correct, and there are weeks where decades happen. And
mm,
I think everyone thinks that that this is never going to happen, and I don't think we're very far away. One of the quotes from Guns N' Roses: "You would have seen it coming, but we gave you too much time." And that's from Coma, which is Guns N' Roses, right? So
yeah.
everyone's just saying, "Oh, the dollar as the global reserve currency will last forever. Treasuries as the global reserve asset will last forever." But you're seeing the change. You're seeing bricks shift to gold.
Yeah, well, I think if you look back at history too, I think every like the British Empire lasted 200 years, Chinese Empire lasted 200 years, the US now is running up on 200 years. So yeah, it's historically you can only print so much money before it all starts falling apart, right?
Correct. And honestly, there was a report, and I can't remember who wrote it. It was one of the hedge funds who basically shows you that in history, when a country gets 51 out of 52 countries that have had debt to GDP of over 130% have defaulted or hyperinflated.
Wow.
Yeah, 51 or 52. The only one that didn't was Japan, which, by the way, is now hyperinflating.
Yeah.
So it's a certainty. And by the way, I believe that G7 is all working together. And so the only country that was able to escape that is Japan, but now they're hyperinflating. And I believe you've basically got ropes tied to your ankles, and you've got all the G7, and their ropes are
Right.
tied to their ankles, and Japan just fell in the water.
Yeah.
I think they're going to suck everyone else in, and I think that's the canary in the coal mine. And
Yeah.
so people are thinking this is going to take years and years. I think Money Game is going to timestamp the biggest currency shift in history, and that's why I made the movie.
Absolutely. We're so excited too, Chris, to see it coming out on streaming services and seeing it come out to the public. But I want to thank you so much for coming down to Wall Street Silver. As always, is a pleasure. I'd love to have you on in the next couple of weeks just to recap everything, the gold, silver market, the economy, maybe go into some different topics. But yeah, I'd love to have you back on.
I love this is a great program. You guys are doing
Yeah.
a great job over there. Thanks for having me on, Ivan.
Yeah, no problem. Talk to you soon.